Milo's on line 2. Milo?
Hey.
Hey, can you hear me okay?
I can.
Are you calling from Acapulco, Mexico?
Yes, I am, in fact. That's why the line is so terrible. I'm sorry about that.
That's all right. We're just, we thank you for calling in. I'll tell people about a couple of dates coming up. There's a speaking tour called the Dangerous Faggot Tour. Milo's is heading up, and at the bottom, by the way, it says...
what's it called? I didn't get that.
One more time.
The Dangerous Faggot Tour.
Okay. Gina, would you mind telling me what it's called? I didn't quite get that.
Won't do it.
Okay.
At the bottom of the bio, it says, is openly gay.
What?
We have a crack team over here, Milo.
How would I know that?
I know you went to Rutgers and caused a ruckus, and there was... Can you tell us about that and tell us about some of your trials and tribulations, or at least get people familiar with who you are if they're not already?
Sure. I'm a senior editor at Breitbart, so my job is to write about technology, internet culture, social justice, some of the crazy stuff going on campus. I do a bit about gender and feminism, sexuality, all of the fun stuff. I'm doing a tour at the moment, talking about freedom of speech and freedom of intellectual inquiry, and how progressivism is ruining American education. And these guys just keep proving me right. I'm going and giving speeches saying how the left likes to shout people down, prefers to yell and bully and intimidate instead of engage in arguments because they don't have any. And these guys just keep proving me right. So at Rutgers, you had feminists and Black Lives Matter protesters leaping up and smearing blood on their faces. Yeah, this man preaches hatred. And what have I done? I said that it would be a good idea if universities were places of learning and open free inquiry.
Whoa, easy there, buddy. Spread your hate somewhere else.
Yeah, it's insane, right?
I know. These are the sorts of dangerous thoughts that can get you banned on American campuses these days, suggesting that universities should be open to conservative points of view. It's shocking, I realize, but this is the sort of stuff that the left is just losing its marbles about. I'm a problem for them because although I'm very obviously homosexual, I don't believe in anything they believe, and they think that your skin color, your sexuality, and your gender should define your politics. I find that a bit gross. They just don't know how to handle me. And so Minnesota, we had air horns and yelling. I mean, it's just been a crazy sort of pandemonium. Everything I do seems to turn into this sort of incredible live spectacle. It's like the internet come to life. It's been a remarkable thing so far.
Well, what I don't understand is obviously I grew up in the 70s, and I grew up with a mom that, made me watch Billy Jack 15 times and Roots 128 times. So I get it. We can never judge, and everyone's opinion is valid, and blah, blah, blah. What I don't get is how they don't see the irony in what they're saying. So they're saying, well, let's say I identify as a female, and then I should have the right to use any bathroom I like because I identify as a female, or I should be able to use whatever locker room I like. So what they're saying is this person identifies, has an opinion, has a thought, or whatever, and you cannot judge in any way, shape, or form what this person does. They've built their entire curriculum on that. And then somebody comes in and says, now let me give you my point of view, and they start screaming.
They shut it down.
At the person. I don't get why they don't get the irony of it, and then they don't realize how foolish they look doing what they preach against all day.
Well, I mean, it's even more crazy than you suggest. I mean, let free speech, and not just free speech, but offensive speech, and the right to be offensive, the kind of speech that annoys the establishment, whether the establishment is, you could say, the religious right 30 years ago, or the progressive establishment today that runs the media, academia, and entertainment industry. The right to speak rudely about the people who rule over you, whether it's culturally or politically, isn't just an engine of progress and doesn't just keep us safe, but it's an engine of progressive progress as well as anything else, as much as anything else. The right to be offensive, which sometimes I am, the right to be outrageous, the right to crack jokes at those in power, is what gave women the vote. It's what, got gay marriage. It was instrumental in the civil rights struggle. But progressives, now that they run the universities and they run the entertainment industry, they run the newspapers, they've forgotten what got them there, which is a citizen's right to say, think, do anything, and the open marketplace of ideas. They're no longer interested in an open marketplace of ideas. What instead they want to do is simply reinforce some very batty, crazy ideas about gender and sexuality and police the way that other people choose to live. Well, I don't believe that. I think people should be free to pursue, whatever crazy interests they like in their private time.
But
I think people should be free to read any book, to play any video game, to watch any movie. And I don't think these art forms should be corrupted by progressive left critics who say, there aren't enough paraplegic Armenian lesbians in them. The left is just gone crazy these days.
I agree.
They want to police everything.
I agree, So help me understand something. And by the way, you used the word that you said offensive. You may say things that are offensive, but it's so funny. These same people would have no problem with puppetry of the penis.
That's awesome.
The traveling group coming and playing at the auditorium. But here's what I don't understand. I've never really understood. If somebody wants to come on campus or just into my neighborhood and they're going to give a Black Lives Matter symposium and there are going to be a lot of speakers from the community, I'm probably not going because I don't believe there is a problem. I believe they've overblown the problem, and I don't believe in what they're preaching. I really don't. But I don't go over there with a air horn. I just stay home. It's not my thing. And there's a million other religions and a million other groups and a million other causes where they go do their thing and I stay home.
You're not trying to interrupt it. You're just trying to stay out of it.
I'm not trying to. They're trying to destroy it.
Right.
And my feeling is...
This is the arrogance of the left, you see. This is their arrogance. What I say to them when they start disrupting the speeches is, look, if you don't want to be here, if you don't like me, if you don't like what I'm saying, if you don't think that there's any value to me beyond campus, don't come. But what right do you have to stop other people from going to whatever show they want? So going to listen to any comedian they want, to go and, ask a journalist questions who they've admired and read for a long time. What right do you have to disrupt or to ban, a speaker that plenty of people on campus, more people on campus, by the way, than you and your friends, might enjoy? You have no right to do that. And in fact, every time this stuff is tested at any courts, when colleges try to ban speakers, more often than not, the First Amendment prevails. And there's a great organization called FIRE.org, which sometimes helps student groups to, get past the colleges and the student unions who want to ban people on campus. It's very rarely possible if you really take it all the way. But the point about all this is, the left now doesn't just want to lay down the law about preferences and about what is good art and bad art, but it also wants to enforce those prejudices and those conclusions on other people. It isn't enough for the left anymore for them to explain to us, what's problematic, what's damaging or distressing to them. They want to prevent us from watching and reading and enjoying those things, and that's the problem.
Well, it's an insane form of narcissism to say, I don't share this person's view on these subjects, and I'm going to go over there and make sure that I pull the cord out of the microphone so that he can't share or she can't share her views with others, which, again, it's insanely narcissistic, but it's also makes you a hypocrite. Either way, you're going to be playing, by the way, you're going from Acapulco to the University of Michigan in Ann Arbor, and then Bucknell University, and then the University of Pittsburgh. Yes?
Yep.
And more dates. I'll give you the way to spell the website. YIA 2 N's OPOULOS.
Nice Irish boy.
.net is how you can find out where Milo's going to be playing. And for you, this Rutgers thing, do you know, can you give us this sort of a thumbnail sketch of what happened?
Sure. I mean, it was absolutely amazing. I was giving a speech, as I say, about sort of freedom of speech, free expression, free academic intellectual inquiry, freedom of creativity, the idea that we should all be free to, read what we want, stuff we've been talking about in this conversation. And the Black Lives Matter and the feminist protesters started jumping up and yelling and chanting and smearing themselves with fake blood. And of course, my fans started yelling, Trump, 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 to kind of drown them out, which was all very hilarious. The funniest bit of this happened later, though. Happened a couple of days ago, long after I'd been at the university, almost a week or two later, and the front page of the Daily Times, which is the Rutgers student newspaper, that's their sort of print newspaper that's on campus everywhere, every day, carried a front page story. Some of the students who weren't even at the talk had gone to group therapy sessions with university administrators because they were so shaken up by the fact that I had spoken on campus. You know, this is what our education system is doing to our young people. It is giving them these pathetic pathologies. They cannot cope with, you know, a gay guy with the wrong opinions, to the point where they had to have the police, counselling services, anti-violence services, you know, all of these services that are paid for by other people's tuition fees. And these crazy sort of social justice lefties quivering in the corner because a gay guy had been on campus with different opinions from them. And these guys like genuinely feel, I'm sure they are genuine when they say they feel traumatized and scared and shaken. This is what the American university system is doing to children. It is infantilizing them. Kids are coming out dumber than they were when they went in. They're coming out, emotionally crippled by an education system that insulates them from other points of view instead of exposing them to other points of view, which should be the purpose of education. It's absolutely astonishing. And what happened at Rutgers is a deep humiliation for the university and any other universities where kids are becoming traumatized by different political points of view. That it speaks to a colossal, staggering, humiliating failure of our university.
Listen, I agree, and I can remember, and most young men can, and women too, a different version of it perhaps, but I could remember playing football as a kid, getting a guy really putting his shoulder into me, getting the wind knocked out of me. Sure. Mm-hmm. And the whole deal was you had to pop back up, even if you couldn't breathe, and you had to walk back to the huddle, and you had to do it in such a way that the other person didn't know they just cracked a rib or knocked the wind out of you. You weren't going to give them the satisfaction of seeing you bent over or down on a knee or calling in, the medical guy or laying on the... There were times, so many times, it's this whole country, sorry about using this country as that metaphor, but this whole country is sort of based on get up, dust yourself off, and you walk back. You may be hurting, but you walk back to that huddle and don't do it with a limp and don't be holding your side. That's going to let the guy have the satisfaction of knowing.
We don't flop for a yellow card like in merry old England.
He's gay. He doesn't follow sports.
Exactly.
A rainbow card, whatever.
Right. You're so right. But you see, kids have been coddled so much. They have been coddled and insulated from anything that might challenge their preconceptions to such an extent that it seems to be causing them genuine trauma when they encounter different points of view. We're not even talking about physical issues. And the way that they've distorted language to talk about, violent speech, as if there could possibly be such a thing. The way that they talk about safety on campus as though a different political opinion in some way endangers their physical safety. This is like crazy talk.
I agree.
Thousands of students in America believe this stuff.
What is the most... if you were to think of what would be the most in terms of the content of your speech when you have an engagement, what would be the most controversial part of your speech or a statement that you might make over the course of a speaking engagement? Dangerous faggot?
Well, probably the name of the tour. I mean, I don't say anything as outrageous as the name of the tour.
Right.
No, I mean, look, I'm deliberately provocative. I'm not out here to suggest that I'm some kind of nice, meek, genteel, professorial type. That's not me, right? I go out, I'm provocative, but it's just words, it's language. I will go out and say, for example, I ran a poll on my Twitter account. Would you rather your child had A, feminism, or B, cancer? And it's just a stupid, funny provocation. 22,000 people voted, by the way, and they voted for cancer. But I'll say, I'll say things like this, and
That's right.
22,000 people, and cancer won 55-45. I had people writing to me saying I'm a cancer survivor and I'd still rather my kid had cancer than feminism. I mean, this stuff is funny and provocative and silly, and then I get into the real nitty-gritty about how I think the modern third-wave feminist movement is leaving women behind, driving the sexes apart. We get into the data, right? Evidence-based stuff.
What created...
in a provocative way, but the point is it's just words.
But Milo, who created you? Because you're a voice that normally you don't hear, and especially in the gay community, coming out of Britain and everything like that. So how did you form these things, which I agree with, because I just sort of think I know what the answer is. It just is. It's out there. It's in nature. Where kids aren't getting better, they're getting worse. We're coddling them. I agree with, I'm sure, 96% of what you're saying, but I don't come from your background. How did you have a turning point, or is this something it's always been in you?
Well, I think it's always been in me. I mean, America has a great tradition of importing sassy, provocative British publicists, right? You've always taken the very best British journalists and stolen them for yourself. Smart, interesting, provocative people. There's quite a long history of that in America.
Well, except for Piers Morgan. I wasn't there when that Piers Morgan vote went down. We didn't want him. Piers Morgan is the dishonorable exception to this pattern. But I'd like to see myself in a similar tradition of British polemicists who don't get on brilliantly in Britain, because in Britain we hate attention seekers and brash people and people with oversized personalities, which I suppose I would have to admit I have. But in America, these things people are much more enthusiastic, interested in big personalities. So I've certainly found much more of a home in America to talk about things I care about. Certainly, one of the reasons I've come to have the political points of view I have is growing up as a Catholic and gay, and looking at the gay establishment and realizing, actually, I had no problem coming out as a homosexual, but I did have a problem coming out as a conservative, and in particular, the hostility from gay people when you reveal, the heresy that you are, you believe in a state, or the heresy, that you're religious, was far worse than anything I've ever encountered from supposed homophobes. And the gay establishment really doesn't have very much to say about gay issues anymore, doesn't do very much for gay people. It seems to just be a sort of outgrowth of the leftist political parties in whatever country it lives. It cares more about language policing and policing other people's sexualities and, enlarging the size of the state than it cares about AIDS, for instance. And I just saw this huge, powerful, bullying gay lobby, gay establishment. I thought, these people do not represent me. And I'm sure that I'm not alone in that. And indeed, I'm not alone in that. And so many people come to me and say, thank God you're a gay person in public life who doesn't, toe the line. Thank you for Well, I don't think I don't think the big lobby works for any group, honestly.
You wouldn't, but you see, the thing is, you wouldn't need one if it worked. Now that the gay marriage stuff is basically ironing itself out, and gays can pretty much do the same as everybody else, there's not really any reason why gay people would vote for left-wing politicians anymore, because it's not in their interest. Gays are natural libertarians. There's no reason why we should sign up to a leftist system where men pay so much more into the system and women take loads out. Why should I subsidize your pregnancy? I mean, I don't get my taxation quite that selfishly, but you understand that people are going to vote in their own self-interest. Gays are natural libertarians. There's no reason why they should vote for left-wing parties anymore, particularly when you think how boring and dull and language policing left-wing parties are. The essence of gay culture is pushing boundaries. It is testing taboos. If you think about the outrageousness, how wickedly funny drag queens are, all of that stuff is about pushing the boundaries of acceptable speech and thought. But the modern progressive establishment, which includes the gay establishment, doesn't believe in any of those things. So it strikes me as obvious that once, that you've got sort of stuff like gay marriage out of the way, gay people are going to start flocking to the right and going to start flocking to libertarian parties. And they already are. The gay establishment hasn't realized this yet, and it's going to take a very long time to catch up if it ever does.
By the way, speaking of flocking, they have the names for like a pride of lions or a herd of
crows.
Yes. Let it be known that more than 3 gays together is a parade. I call it a parade of gays. You can use that, Milo.
It's a technical term.
Gina Grant has a question.
I would call them a boredom of gays, because any group of gay men larger than 2 becomes insufferably dull to me. All they want to talk about is, the same things all the time. They have the same politics. Gays en masse as a large group are incredibly dull. They have a very undeserved reputation for being sassy and funny and brilliant to be around. Gays are great in small numbers, but in big groups, terrible. So my collective noun is a boredom of gays.
Milo, I have a quick question for you. Curious about this. I have a lot of friends, liberal friends, that are progressive and actually are quite outspoken about their feelings on the regressive left. And I'm wondering, I don't know if you've heard of or met Dave Rubin, comes to mind, a friend of mine. He's a political commentator. I wonder if any of those guys have reached out to you, because even though you might seem far away politically, there are so many things that are just so simpatico when it comes to people that are just against the regressive left, but are still very liberal, just don't like the direction it's going.
Well, I think that the fact that left-wingers in America are called liberals is sort of a linguistic joke. It's almost it's a bit of an anachronism, because these people aren't liberal. They don't believe in liberalism. They're not classical liberals. They don't believe that people should be left to their own devices. The left used to, but it doesn't anymore. And most of my fans are disaffected liberals. Most of Dave Rubin's fans are disaffected liberals. Most of, and in fact, even people who are very hardline, socially conservative people like Ben Shapiro, one of my colleagues at Breitbart, many people like him because he is fearless and because he stands up to the language police. He doesn't mind if he upsets and offends. I think a lot of people who would consider themselves, reflexively think of themselves as left-wing, feel very aggrieved that the leftist establishment sort of abandoned them, has moved off into these crazy gender politics, these crazy racial politics. They don't reflect what most people believe.
It's funny you should say abandoned.
That they are internalized. Most women don't believe they're internalized misogynists. Most people don't believe that there is, a white patriarchal cis-het superstructure keeping, most people don't believe this crazy stuff that you read at BuzzFeed and Vox and Gawker and Mike and all these other terrible places. They don't believe this stuff. And the left has abandoned these people. So, by far the biggest contingent of, Milo fans is disaffected liberals.
Well, it's funny because that is the phrase that comes up when we have these conversations, is exactly that they feel abandoned by their party.
Well, I'm going to let you enjoy what I'm assuming is a vacation in Acapulco, a vacation, and give the person on the lounge chair next to you a break. That guy's like, I just wanted a fucking Mai Tai.
The pool is emptied since we began talking. The pool area is now empty.
2 coconut cups over his ears.
I left LA to get away from this shit. Never ends. Thank you, Milo. Is it Milo or Milo? Am I screwing this up?
It's Milo, but I don't get offended, so don't worry.
Thank you, Milo. I appreciate it. We'll see you in the flesh. I think sometime around March in studio here.
I'm very much looking forward to meeting you in March.
I am too, and I'll give Ben Shapiro a big sloppy kiss from you.
Interesting guy.